Good morning. Happy Sunday, fun day. Welcome on into Let's Bet It. Lauren Jabbar here with Jared Smith. Jared, we are on week 8 of the NFL football season as we get to enjoy a game while we are talking about all the other games. The Denver Broncos taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars right now in London across the pond. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I don't know if enjoy is the word I'm looking for here. This is ugly. The Broncos are ugly. My teaser's I'm already cashing or counting my teaser as a loss with this Broncos performance in the first quarter. Russell Wilson started 0 for 3 with a pick, and he just looks awful. Like making bad reads, not making good throws, and then on top of that, the Broncos defense is getting worked. Jags are about to go in and score again. I have no words for what's happening with the Denver Broncos. I can't imagine in anyone's wildest dreams that Russell plays this poorly. I mean, it's ugly. It is. He looks like a
Oogly.
junior varsity quarterback, and he's on the field pregame, like looking up to the sky, doing his like corny routine, and then he starts out playing that bad. I mean, I'll be honest. I would leave his ass in London. I would leave him there, and I would cut him. I don't even know what you do anymore if you're the Denver Broncos. I mean, you're stuck with this guy for 5 more years, I think, before you can get out of that deal. Woo! Glad I'm not a Broncos
Well,
fan.
hoping that he turns it around a little bit and makes something happen here. They're still in the game. It's only a 7-0 game right now. The first quarter is about to be done. So hopefully he steps it up a little bit and gives us a little bit of a game. We have a lot to talk about today. First of all, injury updates around the league. We have line moves, some crazy line moves that went on over the past couple of days. We have week 8 key games that we're going to break down, talk teasers to me. We got prop lock and drop it. So much to get into. So let's get it. Let's bet it. Presented by Superbook Sports. First of all, injury updates. Steelers ruled out kicker Chris Boswell groin for week 8 against the Eagles. How big of an impact is that going to be for the Steelers going up against the powerhouse Eagles right now?
Oh, another 15-yard penalty on Denver. Wow. Um, I don't really think a kicker is going to have too much impact on a Steelers Eagles game. Maybe the final score will be a little bit depressed if they go for 2 or miss some field goals,
Yeah.
but that's not something that would impact the line in any way, I don't think.
And I think that the Eagles are going to crush the Steelers anyways, so we'll see what ends up happening
Ooh,
with
don't
that.
say
Chuba
that to
Hubbard.
Andy Ortenberg. His
Yeah,
three-star bet
sorry,
today
AL.
is the
Sorry,
Eagles
AL.
or the Steelers plus 10.5.
Oopsies. Well, that's 10.5 though. They're not going to win the game. You know what I mean? Chuba Hubbard ankle has been ruled out week 8 against the Falcons. How does that impact the line?
Yeah, I don't think a running back again impacts the line too much, but it will impact the style that Carolina plays. They're without Christian McCaffrey now without Chuba Hubbard. I don't even know who the third string running back is in Carolina. I did bet the under in that game. We'll talk about it a little more later. But let me take a look right now and see who the third string running back is. Deontay Foreman. We've actually heard his name before. He actually had some pretty good run earlier in his career. So that's, he had a couple good seasons with Tennessee and Houston. So that at least they have an experienced backup, but I haven't really seen any. The only running backs by themselves will not impact the line. The only position by itself that will impact the line is a quarterback or clusters in a position.
Of
I guess
injuries.
you could say,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess you could say Carolina now, not injury, but with McCaffrey gone and Hubbard
Mm-hmm.
out, that is going to impact that a little bit. But I'm actually seeing a little bit of line movement towards Carolina from 4 to 3.5. So clearly,
Wow.
bettors or the sharps are not afraid of Hubbard being out.
And we're going to get into that line movement in a second. One more injury to talk about. Kenny Golladay knee will not play in week 8 against the Seahawks. But let's get into that line move really quick because we talked about Atlanta taking on the Panthers. It opened up at 6.5. Now ATL is only laying 4 points against the Panthers. And I feel like a lot of this movement has to do with a couple things. One, the NFC South kind of being up for grabs at this point with the Bucks not taking a stronghold of the division. Also, the fact that people think Carolina's defense can keep it close. I think 50% of the public bets are kind of on each side, Jared. What are you seeing here with this line movement?
With the Seahawks Giants game, yeah, it does look
Falcons,
like the
Panthers.
Giants. Oh, I'm sorry. We're talking Kenny Golladay for a second there. I thought we were
Yeah.
doing Kenny Golladay. Um, So hold on, time out. We're not doing Kenny Galladay.
I
We're doing
mentioned
Falcons.
Kenny Galladay, and then I went on to ATL Panthers because the Kenny Galladay.
That was very confusing there. Okay, Falcons Panthers. I think the line movement, frankly, is very puzzling to me. All the injuries, everything is kind of moving towards Atlanta's direction, but I just don't think Atlanta deserves to be that big of a favorite, and I think that's why the sharp bettors gobbled up the points with the Panthers, and they continue to do so because again, I'm seeing a little bit more movement off of 4 down to 3.5 now. Betting splits, I could care less. The betting splits are meaningless. I honestly, like you see the public win every week and the sharps lose every week. That's kind of been the vibe of the NFL season so far. So public splits, not something I pay attention to, but yeah, I think we're getting to a point now where Atlanta down to 3.5. I mean, if you were going to bet them as a home favorite, this is the best price you're probably going to get.
Tennessee, this was going to be my best bet of the week until basically yesterday. Tennessee was laying 4 points when this line opened against the Texans. Now it's a pick 'em. Ryan Tannehill downgraded to out this weekend. He's dealing with an ankle injury after the Colts game last weekend. And then an illness was added to his injury report as well. He didn't travel with the team. Now Malik Willis making his first career start today. Does he stand a chance against Davis Mills and the Texans?
Yeah. I mean, it's the Texans.
Oh.
Anyone has a chance against the Texans. So Malik Willis is a very interesting candidate. I mean, this was a guy that I remember when we were building up to the draft, we were talking about him maybe being the first quarterback selected. Maybe he's going to be this, hidden gem that not a lot of people were talking about, the run pass ability and the dual threat nature of his game, but, played at Liberty, didn't really know what we were getting out of the college, circuit there. Goes to Tennessee where he gets to sit behind a very, veteran offense and a quarterback that Tannehill's, run that offense for a long time. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest switch here is it's a very different offense to prepare for with Willis now. Tannehill is literally a statue. So how does Houston's defense handle that today? I think the move is fair. 4 points from Tannehill to Willis. I think that's fair. I'm even seeing Houston as a slight favorite, 1 point favorite at one of the shops here in town. But for the most part, it's a pick 'em. I think I would give Willis a fighting chance here. And I think Derrick Henry is going to be his BFF in the backfield.
Speaking of a game that's a pick 'em, or at least was a pick 'em, the New England Patriots was a pick 'em against the Jets. Now New England laying just under a field goal at about 2.5, even after an upset loss at home to the Bears. The line continues to move towards New England, and probably because of maybe their 12-game winning streak against the Jets. Also, because of the uncertainty of the Jets' backfield, no Breece Hall. How have you seen this line move? And does not having Breece Hall exponentially hurt the Jets here going up against the New England Patriots?
Yeah, this is at 3 now. And it's juiced to the Pats at 3. So if you watched Pickswise Playbook on Thursday, we hope you did, you had an opportunity to bet the Pats at 1.5 because I gave it out at 1.5. Probably one of my better bets of the year in terms of CLV, but we all know how worthless that can be if the Patriots end up losing this game. But I am very proud of the CLV on this bet, betting the Pats at 1.5 and getting it to now 3. It looks like it might close at 3.5 too, which again, pretty impactful line move there when you get it through that key number. I think the Breece Hall injury is massive. I think the Elijah Vera Tucker injury is just as important. Mm-hmm. You're talking about your star rookie running back and your right tackle who is playing like the best offensive lineman on the team. Of course, they drafted Vera Tucker at a USC last year to play guard, kicked him out to tackle this year because of the offensive line injuries that they had. Of course, Mekhi Becton out for the year preseason. They bring in Dwayne Brown, who's 38 years old. He's playing on the left side. Tucker kicked out from right guard to right tackle, and you had 2 bookend tackles, Brown being a little, obviously, the age being up there, not as efficient, but Tucker was playing really well. Now you lose both of those guys. Corey Davis, who's your leading receiver, also out. You get Elijah Moore back, and I know Prop Holliday is very high on Moore today, and we'll see what kind of game he has. But I just don't see a path to victory for the Jets without those 2 bookends, the running back and right tackle. That was the identity of this offense. So we'll see how it impacts the running game for New York, I would assume heavily. And I think for the
Mhm.
Patriots offense, Mac Jones to me, everyone wants Bailey Zappi, but go watch the tape. Mac Jones is the guy. He wasn't healthy last week. He's healthy this week. I think that's why you've seen the significant line move. Again, a running back like Breece Hall is not going to move this line from 1.5 to 3.5. A quarterback will. So I think it's more Mac Jones, but of course the Jets' injuries on offense, huge factor here.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked about Elijah Moore for a second back in this week. Let's bring in Bobby Stanley, prop Holiday, because I know he has a nice little proppy on Elijah Moore. Welcome on in, Bobby Stanley. How are you today? How's the baby doing? Are you actually sleeping now? It's been a week and a half at this point.
I probably average 4 to 5 hours of broken sleep a night,
Nice.
and it's
Nice.
not too different than the 6 hours I was getting before. So it's actually not that bad. It's really not.
Not too
I don't
much of
want
a
to. What's cool is, so like if I have the 1 or 2 a.m. feeding shift, I get to wake up and see what happened with the late game. I woke up to Jake Paul beating Anderson Silva, hashtag rigged trending on Twitter. So you get all these little updates early in the morning before you have to wake up. It's not that bad.
I know one of the things that you probably don't want to watch is the Lakers play and getting those updates for those games because they look like absolute dog poop right now. But a team that hasn't looked like necessarily dog poop, they're just kind of average, is the LA Rams. They're taking on the San Francisco 49ers. You like Matt Stafford over passing yards. Do you think they're going to win that game too?
Win, I don't know. It's always tough with San Fran. Shanahan owns McVay in the regular season. We all know that. But the Rams are
Mm-hmm.
getting healthier as the 49ers are getting unhealthier. No Debo Samuel, no Eric Armstead, no Dre Greenlaw. These are big pieces to San Francisco. So that could work in the favor of the Rams. Home field doesn't really matter to LA and SoFi Stadium. They haven't had a home field advantage since they've been there. So I won't pick a side on that game, but I do like Stafford on the passing yards. Um, they get Van Jefferson back, which is huge. He's going to slide into that number 2 wide receiver role. They waited to after the bye week to make him active. They did it intentionally so he can get a full workload today. And they get their center back in Brian Allen, another big piece, because a lot of the pressure that Matt Stafford is getting is up front in the middle. He did hit this in week 4 against He did hit this in week 4 against San Francisco. The line is 248.5. He had 254. He had his highest pass attempts for this season against San Fran in week 4. So speaks well to kind of the game script. No Cam Akers. He's pretty much just waiting his trade destination at this point. So they're rolling with Darrell Henderson, Malcolm Brown, and Ronnie Rivers off the practice squad. I don't see them establishing a run, so I do think it's going to be a high volume pass game for them. And last season, coming out of the bye with Stafford, he threw for 300 yards against Green Bay. So coming out of the bye with all these factors, Van Jefferson and Brian Allen, I do think he goes over 248.5.
I like that. I actually do think the Rams win this game today. As much as I've been Team Niners all season, I think the Jefferson return is big off the bye. The Niners look a little bit I don't know. We'll see. Should be a fun game, though. Elijah Moore, listen, I'd love to see this kid do good things, but I don't know how I get inside of his head this week, Bobby. What are you vibing with Elijah? You're getting over receptions, but you think he's going to be in this game mentally?
Well, from what we've read, he misses last week, right? He misses
Yeah.
he misses week 7 because he's frustrated. He didn't get any targets in week 6 against Green Bay. He's pissed off. So they start talking to Matt LaFleur. Was it Mike LaFleur? The LaFleur in New York. I'm sorry, the other LaFleur brother. They're saying that they
One
need
of the
to get this
LaFleurs.
guy. They need to get this guy, for lack of a better term, I'm going to try the dad jokes, more involved in the passing game. The line is set at 2.5. His over receptions is 2.5. It opened at -115 and got completely juiced to -156. So clearly, people are favoring this bet. You mentioned Corey Davis not being there. That slides him up in the pecking order. And then I think he gets Jalen Mills in coverage for the New England Patriots. He's ranked 102 out of 105 ranked corners according to Pro Football Reference. So if the juice is too high for you, I do think you could still pivot to 33.5 on the receiving mark. But there's no Breece Hall. I do think we're going to see a little more pass-heavy game script for the Jets. Maybe Zach Wilson used a little bit more of his legs. I think his rushing yards is at 12.5. That's a good line. But for 2.5 receptions, they want to salvage this relationship. They want him to be whole going into the second half of the season. Give me over 2.5. I do think it's going to be a little bit more short yardage stuff, but he has the ability to break one. And Jalen Mills is probably one of the poor tackling corners in the NFL as well. So 2.5. The juice is too much. Pivot to the 33.5 in receiving yards. But I do agree with your analysis that the Jets should struggle today in the game. If they get behind early, this could be a negative game script that also means more pass heavy.
A team that no one knows how they're going to do today against the Texans is the Tennessee Titans. That line moved from 4 to pick 'em with the news that Ryan Tannehill is downgraded out this weekend. Malik Willis making his first career start today, and you think he's going to score a touchdown. Tell me why.
So I come on here and I like to give my touchdown props. I'm not going to come here and say, hey, Devontae Adams is going to score. Hey, Jonathan Taylor is going to score. Pickswise doesn't need to hire me to tell you that. I want to give you the good stuff. So Malik Willis is plus.
You need the good stuff, Bobby. I need the good stuff, bud.
Malik Willis is plus 350 to score a touchdown. He scored 1 rushing touchdown in the preseason. He got pretty extensive work in the preseason. I watched about 10 minutes of his preseason highlights. If he could turn the corner, if he could turn the corner, no one's catching him. There was in the pre-draft process, they were saying this guy becomes the second most athletic quarterback in the league behind Lamar Jackson the second he is drafted. So I do think he has that ability. A touchdown will go a long way mentally for him to kind of settle into this offense in his first start. They're going to sell out to stop Derrick Henry. You're going to give me almost 4-1 on a guy who wants to use his legs against the Houston Texans defense. So, yeah, Malik Willis to get a touchdown in his first start. I really like it. I'm shocked it was up at 350. I thought it would be like 280, 290. So sign me up.
I love that. Love that. I'm in. I'm telling you. Jared, how about you?
Well, there's one other guy on your list. I've never even heard of him, so I don't even know how to preface it. But he's one of those guys that you find, and God bless you if it hits, because if it does, you deserve a pat on the back and a night off of daddy duty.
So the guy who Jared's talking about is Danny Gray, wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers, and he's a 5-1 to score a touchdown. So plus 500. There's no Deebo Samuel. There's no Kyle Juszczyk. There's no Juan Jennings. Yeah. They're all out. So now we're moving guys up the pecking order. Danny Gray made his debut last week against Kansas City. It was not very impactful, but he is slated for a bigger role today. Jimmy G and Brandon Ayuk after that Kansas City game said, this guy's about to turn a corner. He's really starting to understand the offense, and he is blazing fast. We know how Kyle Shanahan likes to scheme open these wide receivers. He gets the ball on end arounds. They line him up in the backfield. He's just very good at scheming guys open, and there's a lack of pass catchers ahead of him in the depth chart. Guy caught a 76-yard touchdown pass in the preseason. So he's looking for his first career reception, and he's looking probably to be the third or fourth option in this offense today. I love it at plus 500. I do think he's someone who could take an end around. He could, off script, go right up the middle with it. So Danny Gray at plus 500 to score a touchdown. This is what I'm here for. It's not Derrick Henry at minus 20. It's Danny Gray.
If a guy that has never had a reception in his entire career scores a touchdown today, and you're on the touchdown prop, that, sir, is impressive. That's
awesome.
Friday night to midnight quarter. Reading beat writers for the San Francisco 49ers praise this guy who just got, in his first start last week. So, this is the fun stuff, man.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm definitely tailing you on that Malik Willis one. I love a good underdog comeback quarterback story. Let's make it happen. 3.5 to 1 odds on Malik Willis. Anytime touchdown. Bobby Stanley, we so appreciate you for coming on the show. Happy Sunday. And enjoy watching your teams today. Best of luck with your bets.
I will. What's really cool, I have to say this, my son was kind enough to be born on a Rams bye week, so he gets his first Rams action this week. I'll have a picture up on Twitter later of the whole Ramily together with the dog included. So keep it.
The Ramily, I love that. The Ramily. I'm done.
All right,
that's
guys.
Amazing.
Best of luck on your bet.
That is Bobby Stanley, prop Holliday. You love to see it. Okay, let's get into some Week 8 key games, Jared. First of all, let's talk about the Cardinals taking on the Vikings right now. That line's at 3.5. Vikings sitting at 5-1 and have the best odds at this point to win the NFC North. They're coming off a bye this week. They're going to be well rested. Now, the Cardinals are coming off of a win against the Saints. DeAndre Hopkins in his return back, his first game back, caught 10 of 14, 103 yards. Cardinals won, but they still gave up 34 points to the Saints, and then they lost to the Seahawks before. I feel like this is a spot where they really want to prove something. The Vikings have a 4-game winning streak and a bye. How do you play this game? Do you play the total? Do you play the spread? And who do you think comes out on top?
Yeah, I have very little interest in betting this game. So the Vikings are one of 5 teams in the NFC that have a positive point differential. Arizona is not one of those teams. And curious line movement here. I mean, you've had definitely this thing opened at 2 over the summer, and then you saw it pop, balloon, bloviate all its way up to 5.5, 6 last week, 6.5 even, and now we've seen it drift back towards Arizona. Probably going to close right around 4, 3.5. I think the Cardinals defense trending up is the only edge that I could find here in either unit. I really have no desire to bet this game. I think the Vikings should win. I think top to bottom, they're a better team with better talent, but
Yeah.
this one really, this one doesn't really suit my fancy.
The underdog is 7-2-2 in the last 11 meetings. If you're leaning towards the underdog, which is the Cardinals here in this spot, the trends do favor you. What about the Giants taking on the Seahawks? The Seahawks, the favorites here, 3-point favorites. The Giants right now, though, rolling this season 6-1, won 4 straight after beating the Jags last week. The Seahawks won 3 of their last 4. The last 2 games, their defense has stepped up. Kenneth Walker III played incredible last week, ran for 168 yards, 2 touchdowns. These are 2 teams that I've been rooting for all season long. They're 2 teams that have exceeded all expectations that were set for them at the beginning of this season. My best bet actually is on this game, so I'm not going to get into it too much until the end of the game. But Jared, I know that you love fading the Giants, so how are you on the Seahawks in this one, laying the points?
Absolutely. Gave it out on the column this week, laying 3. Listen, I am not going to miss the boat when this Giants team finally implodes. And I don't think they're going to implode. I think that's the wrong word to use because that's more indicative of a team that's not well coached and not buttoned up in key areas. I think the Giants are both of those teams. But we bet numbers, not teams. And the numbers tell me that the Giants are a very average to below average football team, despite the fact that they're 6-1. They're 5-0 straight up as an underdog. I mean, that is just insane. They have destroyed the market every week, and eventually the market does catch up. I know it's hard to picture that because we're looking at, last week they were an underdog against the Jaguars and they won. You have to zoom out and you have to look at the bigger picture. I mean, who knows? The Giants could go in there again this week and do what they did last week in Jacksonville, but I'm betting on that not happening. I'm betting on the Seattle defense, too, to play a lot better. Also, some very interesting injury returns for Seattle. I did not expect Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf to play in this game, but Pete Carroll mentioned yesterday that they're both trending towards playing. And I think that's very positive. You got Poona Ford, their defensive tackle should be back. That'll help with the running game. But listen, this Seattle defense has been playing really well. That's been the part of this team that I think not a lot of people expected. Seattle's defense over the last 2 weeks is a top 5 unit in EPA per play. And that's against Justin Herbert and Kyler Murray, 2 very different styles of quarterbacks, and they held both of those guys in check. So I think Geno Smith is a great story. So is Daniel Jones. I think the home factor here for Seattle matters. There's not a lot of home field advantages that I put a lot of stock in. Seattle's one of them. The weather is also huge here. This is going to be a weather game based off of the forecast right now in Seattle. I'm seeing 15 to 20 mile an hour winds, and I'm seeing a lot of rain. And, it's Seattle. That's normal. But that's going to be a factor here. I think the Giants run the ball pretty well. Seattle runs it really well, too. And the Giants really struggle to stop the run. They're a bottom 10 unit there. So I could see this one being the game where the real Giants finally show themselves.
Yeah, we'll see. I bet the Giants money line every single week. I'm doing it again this week. I'm not encouraging other people to bet that, but I am this week because they won me quite a bit of money so far this season. So I'm continuing to roll until that ball drops. The 49ers taking on the Rams in this spot. The Niners laying 1.5 points. That total set 42.5. San Fran coming off a big loss to the Chiefs last week. Now they're going up against NFC West foe in the Rams, who are coming off of a bye week. They beat the Panthers in their last game, which the Bucs couldn't do this past week, but they played in week 4. These 2 teams did. The 49ers came out on top. Kyle Shanahan has his number. Leaning towards that again, McCaffrey, he's had another week of rest or another week of practice with the team. He's gone up against the Rams twice in his career, 367 total yards, 2 touchdowns against him. Matt Stafford, 8 interceptions on the season, which is the second most in the NFL. I can see that trend kind of continuing here. The 49ers have also gone 8-1 in the last 9 head-to-head games between the two of these teams. Do you see that trend continuing, Jared, or do you think maybe Matt Stafford and the Rams could step up and take advantage of the 49ers here?
Yeah, I think off the bye, now I don't have these numbers in front of me, but you would imagine that the Rams offense will play better. The offensive line was in shambles when these teams played each other a few weeks ago. Brian Allen comes back at center. It's huge. But Joe Noteboom, the left tackle, who was playing a few weeks ago, is out. So you've got a third-string left tackle now because Andrew Whitworth also is out. So I don't love the offensive line as a whole, but it's important, I think, that you're getting your starting center back. And that will, you would think, help. On the offensive side in the backfield or at the skill position, Bobby mentioned Van Jefferson coming back is massive. You know, it gives another option, a vertical option for Matthew Stafford. It's an Odell kind of option, you know, the guy who had last year who was just so good at stretching the field. This year it's Kupp over the middle and it's Robinson who just looks like a shell of his former self. And that's it. Well, now you add Jefferson back to that mix and you get a little more spice to this offense. And I do think if I'm Sean McVay and I've had this little success against this team in the regular season, I know the Rams won in the NFC Championship game, went to the Super Bowl, and that's all fine and dandy. But Kyle Shanahan has owned this matchup during the regular season.
Yeah.
So I could see McVay getting very aggressive here. Maybe that, you know, riverboat gambler, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We'll see how the percentages work out in this game. But if you were going to ask me where this line is trending and who I think is a little healthier and a little better equipped to handle this particular game, which is very physical and very aggressive, I would lean Rams. But I still I believe in this Niners team long term. I think they push their chips into the middle, and I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to win the division maybe when it's all said and done. But I think the Rams might be the better side today. Just a hunch. I'm not betting this game, but just a hunch that the Rams might be the right side today.
It is interesting. The trends are showing that the San Francisco 49ers, we know about Kyle Shanahan and how he kind of has the Rams number at this point. 6-0 against the spread the last 6 games against the Rams. So maybe the Rams will be able to come back with a little rested legs, maybe mental rest too. I feel like bye weeks give the guys a lot of mental rest, which is always needed during the season as well. We'll see how that game plays out. I'm looking forward to watching it. A game that we were all looking forward to watching at the beginning of the season that maybe now not so much. Sunday night football game. The Packers heading on into Buffalo to take on the Bills. That spread right now at double digits. The Bills laying 10.5 points. The Packers, what the hell is going on with them? They are trying to figure themselves out this season. 3-game losing streak, and now looking the Buffalo Bills dead in the face. They lost to the Commanders last week, and the Bills are coming off of a bye. So they're well rested after beating the Kansas City Chiefs in Week 6. Josh Allen, not to forget, Jared, threw for 329 passing yards and 3 touchdowns in that game. At the beginning of this season, everyone is probably like, wow, Josh Allen going up against Aaron Rodgers. We're so excited for 2 of the best quarterbacks in the league to go head-to-head. Not anymore, because Aaron Rodgers is averaging 228 passing yards per game through 7 weeks, which is a career low for him. And how many years has he been in the league? It ain't great. It ain't great. And I'm still leaning the Buffalo Bills. I know this is a lot of points, but I think that they probably are going to be able to cover the spread with the way that the Packers are playing right now.
Yeah, I would really love to get involved in this game, but I think the Packers really are the only like side that makes sense from a value perspective, because this line opened 3.5 over the summer, and then it was 8.5 last week, and then it reopened 11 after the Packers just continued to shit the bed,
crushed by the Commanders.
Yeah, that game, and honestly, I know that was a 1-score game, but that game was not close. I went back and watched that game. Excuse me. And that game was not close. The Packers were fortunate to be within a score late. I am concerned about the Packers' defense more than anything else. That's the unit here that I think has been underperforming the most. I think it's fair to say that we should have expected some growing pains with Aaron Rodgers in the offense. This is an offense that, in my opinion, is built more to the run anyways, with the running backs and the offensive line being what it is. Well, Jenkins and Bakhtiari have been shuffling all season. Bakhtiari, 1 week he can play, the other week he can't. Jenkins, they've moved him inside to right guard. They have 2 new tackles, basically. It's fair to expect this Packers offense to struggle. The unit that I did not expect to struggle was the defense. And the defense looks like a unit that is below league average in most categories. And that is very concerning. I mean, again, this is a Packers defense that is 17th in EPA per play. They were a top 5 unit last year, and they have the exact same personnel, the exact same scheme as last year, and they are performing well below the expectation that we set forth for them this year. So that's the part of this game that I think scares me the most. If I want to bet Green Bay, again, everyone's going to bet Buffalo. It makes sense in your mind. Buffalo's going to blow this team out. I understand that, but I'm trying to find ways to get to the window on Green Bay because, again, quote unquote, that's where the value is with this line. I just can't get there. I can't get there because of this defense because I'm just petrified that Josh Allen's going to eat my lunch if I get to the window on Green Bay. So as much as I want to back the dog in this spot, I don't know if I can do it.
Yeah, Josh Allen is about to bully the Green Bay Packers. I would not even I would tuck your lunch way deep down in your backpack, Jared, because that guy's hungry and he's ready to go after
sitting out last week
by
Josh Allen.
If the trends are favoriting the under a little bit here, the under is 5-0 in the last 5 meetings between these 2 teams. The under is 4-0 in the Bills' last 4 games. So if you want some under sweats, that's where the trends are looking right now. Let's get into some teaser talk. Talk teases to me. What is your Week 8 NFL teaser?
Well, it's already probably a loser because it's the Broncos and the Saints. I do think the Saints are a good teaser leg. That total's dropping now. As I'm seeing it at 48.5.
Yeah.
So, it's still relatively high. I prefer to bet a teaser with a total in the low to mid 40s. Let's see what Denver does here on 4th down. Russell Wilson looks like he's going to sneak it across. So I just read a report from Dan Graziano that said if the Broncos lose this game, Hackett's going to get left in London, and he will get fired. We'll see if that turns out being true.
How realistic do we think that actually is?
Well, I do trust Dan Graziano. I mean, he's a pretty respected NFL reporter. So we'll see. But just throwing that out there. So my teaser of the week that I wrote up for the column, Broncos to 8.5, Saints to 7.5. Obviously, you can't bet that now. I'll be honest, though. You get the Titans. No, the Titans are still a slight favorite here. Yeah, that would be – if the Titans flipped and you got the Titans at 1 and you can move the Titans from +1 to +7, I would consider that. But that doesn't look like that's going to be the case. I see Tennessee here as a 1-point favorite pretty much across the board now. So I throw that one out. You could make a case for the Rams. Actually, if the Broncos lose this game, I will likely bet another teaser because, let's be honest, I'm a degenerate. And I will probably bet Saints +1.5, Saints +7.5, Rams +7.5. Both lines are at 1.5 right now. Both teams are slight underdogs. So there you go. Rams and Saints for those that are just waking up this morning and fortunate enough not to be on this Broncos disaster.
It ain't great right now. The halftime is like 3 minutes and 16 seconds away. So we'll see how that all plays out. Let's Bet It is presented by Superbook Sports. Make sure to go to superbook.com or download the app today. And this season, we are all rooting for safeties. That is because Superbook will give you a $50 bonus on each safety scored this season. All you have to do, place a $100 pregame bet on any spread, any total, and if there's a safety scored in any game on Sunday, you get a $50 bonus. Make sure to visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. From superbook.com to Pickswise.com, Gerard, 3-star play of the day. I'm sure there's a few of them up on the site. What do we got?
Yeah, Andrew Ortenberg. And listen, anytime he bets an under, you should pay attention. In fact, I might get to the window on this one a little later. Under in Saints Raiders. We also have a total in the Dolphins-Lions game. We have my Patriots bet. We have the Steelers bet for Andrew Ortenberg. A lot of AO love. We got Howard Bender checking in on the Titans-Texans game. A lot of action, as we would expect today on an NFL Sunday.
I absolutely love the action. We'll head to your best bet of the day, and then I'll get into mine to wrap up the show, put a nice little bow on it. Who do you got for your best bet of the day?
Well, I've dabbled with the totals this year unsuccessfully. For some reason, I can't get my head around a lot of them. And I was going to give you, obviously, the Patriots, but at 3, it makes no sense. Very disingenuous for me to give out my Patriots 1.5 at -3 this morning. So I pivoted and I went to this Falcons-Panthers game, and we're going to go under 41.5, risking 1.65 units to win 1.5, which is kind of my standard baseline bet on the NFL this year. And we don't do this often, but I'm going to start because, let's be honest, this is a big thing in the NFL. Handicapping the referees. The referees play a huge factor in the totals in the NFL. Sean Hockley is refereeing the Panthers-Falcons game today. Divisional games that Hockley has reffed, 75% to the under in his career, including 3-1 this season. And the reason being is he is one of the fewest referees in the league that calls the big 3, which is illegal contact, defensive holding, defensive pass interference. He is stingy in that area. He does not give up a lot of free yards in those very critical penalties that cause chunks in the passing game. So I know that sounds crazy, and that's why I'm basing a bet off of this, but there's some other reasons that I like the under in this game. The big one being Carolina's defense, which excels against the run. Well, what do the Falcons do? They have the 3rd most rushing attempts in the league and the 2nd fewest passing attempts with Mariota. So this is a Falcons offense that likes to run the ball, playing right into the strength of the Panthers defense. And I know the Falcons defense ain't nothing to write home about, arguably one of the worst units in the NFL. But PJ Walker today now playing in his 3rd game. We'll see if the book is out on him. We mentioned no Chuba Hubbard. It's a 3rd-string running back for Carolina. And, oh, by the way, the last 2 times Atlanta played at home, they held their opponents to 20 points or less. Game against the Niners to 14. And then that game against the Browns, which was a little fortunate that they held Cleveland to 20. But still, points are points. And I could see this Atlanta defense playing a little bit better than we expect against the Carolina offense that clearly is undermanned. So I'll go under 41.5, Falcons-Panthers as my play of the day.
They're undermanned, so take the under. I like it. You got an under for your play of the day. I got an over for my play of the day. I'm taking it out to Seattle. I know the Doppler radar doesn't look too pretty. 15 to 20 mile an hour winds and some rain. I am still taking the over 45.5 here, and I'm only laying 5 cents for it. The Seattle Seahawks have a top 5 scoring offense right now. They're averaging 26.1 points per game, and I love how they used Kenneth Walker III last week. 168 yards, 2 touchdowns. They're going to have to run the ball a lot. And I know with Geno Smith throwing the ball the way that he has, completing about 75% of his pass attempts, which is just wild at this point, that number is going to drop a little bit, but I don't think too much to really impact how that offense is playing. And the Giants have really been struggling stopping the run this season. I know they haven't allowed more than 23 points in any of their games so far, but they're giving up about 6 yards per rush. And I think Seattle's quite literally one of the hottest offenses in the National Football League right now. And they're going to be able to find a way to beat the Giants by the run. The Giants are also really good at putting up points. Saquon Barkley rushed for 726 yards so far, 4 touchdowns. And Daniel Jones has completed about 67% of his passes at this point. Seattle Seahawks defense, they stepped up the last couple of weeks, mostly against the Cardinals where they held them to 9 points. They still have the 3rd worst rushing defense in the National Football League, so don't forget that. Giants have covered the spread in all their wins, and the over is hit in 4 of Seattle's last 5 games. Also, I looked at the total in the last 3 meetings between these two teams. They combined for over 54 points basically on average in the last 3 meetings. I know the Giants receiving room is a little, beat up right now, but both teams can put up points. I know the weather is going to be a little bit of an impact here, but still 54 points is 10 over what the total is set at right now over the last 3 games. I like it. I'm laying 5 cents for it, not risking too much. So I'm taking the Seahawks Giants over 44.5 for my play of the day. That's it for us today, guys. Find us on the Pickswise YouTube channel. Go to Pickswise.com. Follow us on Twitter. Jared Smith, Lauren Chabara. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Best of luck with your Week 8 football bets. Let's get it. Let's bet it. Presented by Superbook Sports.